Hi boys and girls, so I'm going to do topic 8 review. It says there are 65 students playing in a tournament. How many teams of 5 can play in the tournament? So I'm going to do my cube, circle my important numbers, 65 students, 5 teams of 5. Okay, I'm going to underline my question. How many teams of 5 can play in the tournament? So I'm going to rewrite my question over here. It's looking for number of teams. Okay. I'm going to box in my keywords. How many teams? I'm going to box in students on each team. Okay, I'm going to do my get. So I have my groups, my each, my total. My total is going to be my 65 students. My each is my 5 because it says students on each team. It's pointing to the 5. It says how many teams of 5, which means 5 on each team. Okay, so my each is 5. My 6 is my teams, which I do not know. So I'm going to put a question mark. So if I know my total, I know my each, but I'm looking for my groups, I'm going to divide. So I'm doing 65 divided by 5. Okay, I'm going to go to my mat. My dividend's my big number. So 65, my divisor is my small number, 5. I'm going to put it in my mat. So 6 in the first one, 5 in the second one. And my divisor, which is my 5, will go on the side. Put my steps. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring up, repeat. And I'm going to start. 5 can go into 6 one time. To show where I'm getting that at, if I go to my 5s, I'm going to look for 6 or less. 10 is too big. So again, go into my 5s. I have to do 5 because it's less than 6. If I go up, I get 1. Okay. So I'm going to put 1 on the very top. I divided. My next step is to multiply. I multiply the side with the very top. So 5 times 1 is 5. Now I subtract. 6 minus 5 is 1. Now I bring up. I get 15. And now I do rover start over. So I go all the way back to divide. Again, I ask myself, how many times can 5 go into 15? So I'm going to pull this out. Let me make this bigger. So I go into 5. I need to find 15 or less. Well, 15 is right here. If I go up, I get 3. So 3 is going to go on the top. I divide it. Next, I multiply. I multiply the side with the top. 5 times 3 is 15. Now I subtract. 15 minus 15 is 0. So my quotient or my answer is going to be 13 with the remainder of 0. Because I have 0 here. So to answer my question, there is 13 teams. That is my answer. Okay. Next problem. It says Marcus has 615 trading cards. He wants to put an equal number into each of 5 books to display them. How many cards will be in each book? So I'm going to do my cubes, circle my important numbers, 615 trading cards, 5 books. I'm going to underline my question, how many trading cards will be in each book? I'm going to rewrite my question. It's looking for number of cards in each book. Okay, box in my keywords. Equal number, that kind of gives me a hint that I'm going to divide. Each, okay, so each tells me I can either multiply or I can divide. And how many cards, and again I have that word each, okay. So just to be certain that I am going to divide, I'm going to do my get. So groups, each, total. My total will be my 615 cards. If each is in my question, that means I do not know it. My groups will then be my 5 books. So if I know my total, I know my groups, but I do not know my each, I'm going to divide. So 615 divided by 5. I already have my chart here. So my dividend's my big number, 615. My divisor is my small number, 5. And I'm going to set it up. So 6 goes in the first one, 1 in the second one, 5 in the third. And my divisor 5 will go on the side. Put my steps, divide, multiply, subtract, bring up, repeat. And I'll take out my multiplication chart to help me. Okay. So how many times can 5 go into 1? So if I look here, I go into my 5s. How many times can 5 go into 6? I'm looking for 6 or less. 10 is too big. So that means I'm going to use 5. I'm going to go up. I get 1. My 1 is going to go on the top, and I divide it. So I'm going to put a check mark. Now I multiply 5 times 1. I multiply the side with the top. So 5 times 1 is 5. Now I subtract. 6 minus 5 is 1. I bring up. And I'm going to do rover, start over. Okay, so I go all the way back to divide. Again, I ask myself, how many times can 5 go into 11? So go back here. I go into my 5s, and I'm looking for 11 or less. 15 is too big, so I go 10, and I get 2. Okay, so I said 5 can go into 11 2 times. It goes on the top. I divided. Now I multiply. 5 times 2 is 10. Now I subtract. 1 minus 0 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. And now I bring up. I get 15. And I do rover, start over, and I go all the way back to divide. So I ask myself, how many times can 5 go into 15? I go to my 5s. I'm looking for 15 or less. 15 is right here. I go up. I get 3. So my 3 is going to go on the top. I divided. Now I multiply. 5 times 3 is 15. Now I subtract. 15 minus 15 is 0. So my quotient, or my answer, is 123 with a remainder of 0. Okay, so that means a number of cards in each book, it's going to be 123 cards. And I can put that in my grid. So 1, 2, 3, and I just bubble it in. Number 3 says Joe collects 318 different coins. She displays all the coins equally in 3 glass cases. How many coins are in each case? So I'm going to do my cube, circle my important numbers, 318 different coins, 3 glass cases, underline my question, how many coins are in each case. I'm going to rewrite my question so it's looking for number of coins in each case. Box in my keywords. Equally tells me that I'm going to divide. I'm looking for how many coins, and I have that each. Okay, so I'm going to do my get, my groups, my each, my total. My total is going to be 318. If each is in my question, that means I do not know it. My groups will be my 3 glass cases. So if I know my total, I know my groups, but I don't know my each, I'm going to divide. I'm dividing 318 divided by 3. Okay. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to set it up. My dividend's my big number, 318. My divisor's my small number, 3. 3 in the first one, 1 in the second one, 8 in the last one, and my divisor 3 on the side. Write my steps: divide, multiply, subtract, bring up, repeat. And I'm going to pull out my multiplication chart. Okay, so 3 can go into 3. I'm going to see how many times. If I go here, I'm looking for my 3's. I'm looking for 3 or less. 3 is right here. I go up, I get 1. So my 1's going to go on the very top. Now I multiply. 3 times 1 is 3. Now I subtract. 3 minus 3 is 0. I bring up. And I do rover start over. So I'm going all the way back to divide. So how many times 3 can go into 1? So let's look. If I go to my 3's, I'm looking for 1 or less. Well, I only get 3, and then I get everything is higher. So if there's no 1 or less, that means 3 cannot go into 1. And I'm going to have to put a 0 because 3 cannot go into 1. So I tried dividing. So next I'm going to multiply. I'm going to do 3 times 0. 3 times 0 is 0. And I subtract. 1 minus 0 is 1. And now I bring up my 1 and I get 18. I'm going to do rover start over and I go all the way back to divide again. So I ask myself how many times 3 can go into 18. So again, I'm going to look at my chart. I'm going to go into my 3's and I'm looking for 18 or less. 18 is right here. If I go up, I get 6. So that means 3 can go into 18 6 times. I divided. Now I multiply the side with the top. 3 times 6 is 18. Now I subtract. 18 minus 18 is 0. So my quotient or my answer is 106. So I can say 106 coins. Okay, my answer is B. Number 4 says, for the division problem 365 divided by 5, in what place will you start dividing? So it's giving us this equation, and it wants to know what place will you start dividing. When it's saying place, it's talking about what place value. Okay, so like your 1s, your 10s, your 100s, your 1000s. So I'm going to set this up. My dividend's my big number, so 367. My divisor's my small number. 3 goes in the first box, 6 in the second box, and 7 in the third. 5 is going to go on the side. Put my steps, divide, multiply, subtract, bring up, repeat. Okay. So then I'm going to take out my multiplication chart. Okay. And I ask myself, how many times can 5 go into 3? So if I go here, I'm looking in my 5's, I need to find 3 or less. There's no 3 or less. So that means 5 cannot go into 3, so I will put a 0. Check off divide. Now I multiply. Multiply the side with the very top. So 5 times 0 is 0. Now I subtract. 3 minus 0 is 3. I bring up. I get 36. And I do rover start over. So I go back to divide. I ask myself how many times 5 can go into 36. So I go into my 5's. I'm looking for 36 or less. 40 is too big, so I go to 35. I go up, I get 7. So 7's going to go on the very top. I divide it again. Now I multiply the side with the very top. 7 times 5 is 35. Now I subtract. 6 minus 5 is 1. 3 minus 3 is 0. I bring up my 1, and I get 17. And I'm going to do rover start over. So I go all the way back to divide. Okay, So I asked myself, how many times 5 can go into 17? I go to my 5s. I need to find 17 or less. 20 is too big. I go to 15. I go up. I get 3. So 5 can only go into 17 3 times. I divided. I multiply the side with the top. 5 times 3 is 15. And now I subtract. 7 minus 5 is 2. 1 minus 1 is 0. So my quotient, or my answer, is 73 remainder 2. Okay, but going back to my problem, it's asking what place value did I start dividing at? So going back here, I'm going to split it into 3 sections, just how it is right now. If we look at this like a place value chart, we can say the first one's my ones, then it's my tens, then it's my hundreds. Okay, just like a regular place value chart. Okay. Now, on the first one with the 3, I was not able to divide. If you remember, I put a 0 because 5 could not go into 3. I was able to officially start dividing in this section because I said, okay, 5 can go into 35 7 times. So this section, my 10 section, is when I was able to officially start dividing. Okay, so my answer is going to be B, tens place, because I was able to start dividing in this place value.